All right, ETM Hotep. Want to welcome everyone to Seshew, mdw-nTr. This is our Divine Words Wednesday, and we appreciate those of you who are watching live and those of you who will be watching in the archives. And hopefully you'll walk away with a little bit more information than you came. You know, that's our goal, is try to edify and educate everyone by way of our discussions or whatever we present on our Wednesday sessions. So we call this Divine Words Wednesday. And my name is mdw-nTr, and I'll be running point guard for our session. But we have other panel members that are part of the Seshew mdw-nTr, and you all can unmute your mic and let everyone know who's in the house.
ETM Hotep, I bet. Welcome in peace, family. This is Damian Everly on Facebook. Go by Damo. Again, welcome in peace.
Welcome in peace, ETM Hotep, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the show and leave satisfied. Hotep.
Hotep, this is Tonica, and welcome to our Divine Words Wednesdays.
ETM Hotep, Dua, Hekanu in Amin Ra Pata, Kwa E Sekum. I go by Kofi Paisa, and we just want to welcome you all to the show. Welcome.
All right. So again, this is our Divine Words Wednesday, and we have our Divine Words Wednesday each and every Wednesday. We try our best to. And on our Divine Words Wednesday, we try to cover something in a little bit more detail. We slow things down, and we have a discussion, and we present some information, a piece of information related to the various languages of ancient Kemet and or its writing systems. All right. We also have a series of hangouts that we do on Fridays called our Freestyle Fridays. Now that one's a little bit more laid back, and where we have fun exercises, testing our memory and our proficiency in identifying different glyphs in mdw-nTr, which are most people will call hieroglyphs, and as well as the memorization of words and what they mean. So we walk through the different steps, the four main steps of the method in transliterating and translating, but without the use of sign lists or dictionaries. All right. So that's on Fridays. But like I said, for tonight on Wednesdays, we kind of dig into a particular subject and have a discussion or present some information. All right. And we also like to have interaction. So on Fridays, we have a lot more interaction with the chat, the YouTube chat. On Wednesday, we also would like to have interaction. So if you have any questions, feel free to type it in the YouTube chat, and we'll keep our eyes on it. And that's it. So we'll get started for this evening. And before we get started, let me share my screen. And I would just need to know when everyone can see my screen.
Who can see it?
All right. And just double check to make sure, if someone can please double check to make sure that it's showing on the YouTube. And then we get started.
Showing on YouTube as well.
All right. I just want to remind those who are watching live, on the YouTube video section, there's a cogwheel beneath the video. You can click on that and change your settings, preferably to 720 or 480 for a better quality. All right, so you can see everything that we present much clearer. All right, before we get started, obviously, you know, if you're not subscribed already to our YouTube channel, this is our YouTube channel. obviously watching, but please subscribe and share the links to everyone, anyone who you feel that is interested in this subject matter, and want to get some information, or even share information, share their own research. We welcome that as well. By all means, share the link, and I'll tell them to subscribe as well. All right. Now, before we get started, we've adopted the offering formula, and we would like to recite that. We do so before every endeavor that we do. So this is no different. So I'll pass the mic to Sonetonica to recite it.
Dua. Yes, I'll go ahead and recite, but before I do that, I'll just like to explain that the top part is written in Seshew Netcher, and then the middle part is the transliteration, and the last bit is the translation. And there's a part that doesn't have any name inside it. It says insert name, and that's where you can insert the name while reciting along. You can insert the name of anybody that you know that has passed along. And in this case, we like to use the name of the ancestors, Aku. So I'll go ahead and recite it. Hotep Dineshu, Wasir Nebjedu, Netcher Neb Abju, DF Beret Heru, Tihen Ket, Ka Apet, Shesmen Het, Het Nebet Neferet, Webed Anket, Netcher Im, Inkani Imaku, Aku, Maheru. And what it says is an offering which the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jedu, great God, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in bread, beer, ox, fowl, alabaster, linen, everything good and pure on which a God lives, for the car of the revered one, the ancestors justified.
Okay, Dua and Iker, excellent job. So this is how we start all of our endeavors, our presentations. And, we encourage everyone else to do the same. If you feel it's appropriate for the people that you are in the company of, we encourage you to do the same. It's similar to the libation ritual that you'll see a lot of people perform anytime that you're gathered together. All right. So tonight's topic is the scientific method in Kemet. All right. Now we know this as Tep Hesep, which is a phrase that means the correct method. And can you all see my cursor when I move my cursor?
2.
Okay, good. So this is how it looks in Seshew mdw-nTr, the hieroglyphs. All right, Tep Hesep. So it's 2 words. It's a phrase that means correct method. All right, so this is our subject for this evening. Now, the claim. Before I read the claim, well, let me read the claim. All right, so this is the claim that was made by someone, and it's not just one particular person. This claim has been made quite a few times, but I actually just quoted one particular one from someone on Facebook. All right, so the claim was made that indigenous people did not conduct a study, create a hypothesis, test it, draw conclusions in order to receive their myths. Their words are passed down from the people that was actually there during the event or events. There's a difference. So trying to marry evolution with our myths is infinitesimal. All right. And I imagine it means that it's just wrong to do that. All right. So basically the claim is saying that the ancient Africans in the Nile Valley, they didn't conduct a study, create a hypothesis, test it, draw conclusions, and so on and so forth. So basically, this is another way of saying that there was no means of scientific methodology in the Nile Valley. All right, and this is particularly speaking about the Nile Valley. All right, so that's the claim. Now, a lot of people may feel the same way because of our perception today of myths, what we're calling myths and what we're calling religions. And we know that because a lot of people will shy away from using the word religion or religious. You'll hear people say that I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. or they'll try to just do away with all of it and say, hey, I'm not religious or spiritual. That is pseudo, you know. So we hear that a lot, you know, around the social community, right? But now we're just gonna find out what all that means. So, before we proceed, let's define a couple of things. So, our first word to define is science. So, what is science? All right. So, this is taken from the etymonline.com dictionary. All right, for the etymology of the word. So, science as a noun is from the mid 14th century, and at that time, it carried the meaning of what is known, knowledge of something acquired by study or information. Also, assurance of knowledge, certitude, certainty. And it's from Old French science, which means knowledge, learning, application, corpus of human knowledge. All right, keep that in mind, corpus of human knowledge, from the 12th century. Also from Latin, which is from Latin, scientia, which is knowledge, a knowing, expertness. From sciens, which is the genitive scientis, which means intelligent, skilled, present participle of sciere, which means to know, probably originally to separate one thing from another, to distinguish. Related to scendere, which means to cut or divide, and ultimately from a Proto-Indo-European root, ski, which means to cut or to split. All right, so that's the historical development of the meanings. You know, how the meanings took shape of this word science that we use today. So now today, basically how we use the word science today, or if we use it today properly, it means, as you see the two bullets at the bottom, it's two things. Science is a set of methods and tools which allows us to know when something is known. Now, remember, the root of the word science, or the historical meaning of the word science, is to know, from sciere, which are over here is past participle of to know. So it has to do with knowledge. That's why you see knowledge in pretty much all of the meanings throughout its history. So on one hand, it's a set of methods and tools which allows us to know when something is known. So this is the part where it says it has a meaning of to separate one thing from another, to distinguish. So when you separate something, it allows a level of discernment, and it allows you to know actually when something is known. So that's on one hand. And on the other hand, it is a body of knowledge resulting from the use of the methods and tools from this first bullet. So as we separate one thing from another and distinguish things, and we discern things, and we gain knowledge about something, that accumulation of that knowledge is what would be referred to as a body of knowledge. And therefore that is what science is as a noun that we use it today. But then again, it's also the set of tools and methods that allows us to even get to that point. Okay, so that's important to know. So those are basically the two major usage or meanings of the word science. And this is something that we all have to understand, because a lot of people forget and kind of misuse the word science. You know, they'll say, like, when we say according to science, blah, 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 blah. When we use it in that way, what we're saying is according to the body of knowledge that we have accumulated thus far today, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but then people forget, how did we acquire that knowledge in the first place? And therefore, this is where the first bullet comes into play. It's a set of methods and tools that allows us to know when something's known. Now, these methods and tools differ depending on the field of science that we're talking about. So, for example, an astrophysicist will use a different set of tools and methods than, let's say, a biogeneticist. Okay, but regardless of the field of science, there are scientific principles that are used. There's a procedure that's used throughout the different various genres of science or the scientific fields. All right, so keep all this stuff in mind. All right, so we're gonna keep going. And but just by the way, I can't see the YouTube channel and I can't see the screen at all. So if any of you all see anything that needs to be brought up or whatever, feel free to interrupt me. All right, because I can't see. All right, so now let's move to what is a scientific theory. Now, this is very important because for a long time, I mean, I still see it to this very day, that there's a misuse of the word theory. People have the wrong idea of theory, and that's because we're using it in a pretty much layman's terms and not accounting for its scientific meaning or how it's used among the various different sciences. So it's important to know what it means. All right. So what is a scientific theory? All right. It's important to understand what a scientific theory is. Outside science, people often use the word theory to refer to a hunch or unsupported personal opinion. This is not what the word means in science. In science, a theory refers specifically to a well-substantiated explanation which accounts for a body of well-substantiated facts. So whenever we encounter a statement like evolution is just a theory, not a fact, this tells us that whoever has made this statement, they're not using the terms correctly. Because in science, theories don't get promoted to facts. Facts are explained by theories. Now, because of their explanatory power, theories are the ultimate goal and the ultimate achievement in the sciences of nature. So in all the various different scientific fields, theories is the ultimate goal of where you want to place your standing, your information. So remember, so what we need to take away from this is the fact that a theory is a well-substantiated explanation. So we can say theory equals explanation. An explanation of what? An explanation of facts. Okay, this is where people have to really understand, because in the layman's way of using it, that's definitely not implied. Okay, people use theory as guess or personal opinion, but no, a theory is an explanation of facts. So you have to have facts first before you can come up with an explanation of those facts, which is what a theory is. All right, so remember that. Now, oh, you have something to say, June?
Oh, I was gonna say that's a really good slide, because I do hear that a lot. People say, "Oh, it's just a theory. A theory is an opinion," but as we just read right there, it's not. It's like you said, explanation of facts. So hopefully people really pick that one up, because I hear that a lot. That a theory is just an opinion.
Right. And that's and I hear this statement, especially on the topic of evolution, because evolution has been a hot topic for this year, basically over the spring and summertime. And I've seen literally people will say evolution is just a theory, not a fact. And that's a faulty premise, because a theory is never a fact. It's an explanation of facts. All right. So this is something that people have to understand. All right, so now we need to just define what a fact is. All right, so what is a fact? Because remember, a theory is an explanation of facts. So a fact in its historical use carried the meaning of something that has occurred. In other words, a fact was a happening or event that has actually occurred, or an occurrence. A set of these occurrences, i.e. facts, plural, are then consolidated into a body of knowledge, documented, and transmitted through explanations. And those explanations are theories. Okay, so it should be really crystal clear at this point. So you have a set of facts, which are events that actually occurred, or occurrences of events, or a happening. And these sets of different occurrences, which are called facts, are put together, consolidated into a body of knowledge. They're documented and they're transmitted to everyone else, and from generation to generation through explanations. and these explanations are theories. So just to pause here for a second, for example, the theory of Einstein's theory of relativity. You know, Einstein is no longer living. He performed all of his methods of research, studying, testing, coming up with a hypothesis, testing hypothesis, so on and so forth, years and years and years ago. But now the data that was collected, the facts and everything that was collected, and the explanation of those facts and what was observed and so on and so forth has been put together in a theory to explain it. And then that theory is transmitted through the generations. So this is why we understand the theory of relativity and so on and so forth, and we can see it applied. And one of its commonly known applications is the GPS system that we use for road maps, Google Maps, our phones, cell phones, and so on and so forth. All right, just to kind of put that out there. So that should be clear now. So we're gonna move on. Now let's switch over to Africa and African traditions. So now, scientific theories in African traditions. So as it relates to African traditions, the transmission of these explanations of occurrences or facts, which are theories by the scientific use of the term, remember, because explanations of facts are called theories. So these theories, or these transmission of these theories, was done by way of what is called today the various forms of figurative speech. The figurative expressions and the realities behind those figurative expressions were usually transmitted together in initiatory environments. So this is why in Africa, initiation systems are very, very important to Africans to this very day. Rites of passages and initiation houses and initiation systems. So this is exactly what historical societies did and continue to do. What many are calling religious texts are really expositions of the scientific theories related to the body of people to whom those texts belong. So in other words, when we look hindsight and we're discovering documents of ancient cultures, you know, be it Kemet or other cultures around the world, a lot of people and scholars tend to look at these documents as some kind of religious text, but they don't look at it as scientific journals, which is what, if we were to go back in time, what they would essentially be, excluding obviously the documents that would pertain to just regular administrative text or love letters, your regular communication, calculating commercial items, trade, and things like that. But these different texts that we today call religious texts, they're actually scientific journals, and they contain the theories of the ancient people. Remember, theories are explanations of facts. But now the difference is in African tradition, as we put here, they did so by way of figurative speech. So this is why it's seen as religious or spooky, or as some people may even say, pseudo, because they don't understand the nature of figurative language. And by figurative language, we have metaphors, simile, allegories, hyperboles, all the different variations of figurative speech. Okay. And the initiatory environments were very important because in those environments, you were taught the figurative speech and you were taught the realities behind it. Because remember, let's just take one form of figurative speech called symbolisms or symbols. A symbol stands in for something. So although I passed the symbol to you, I'm supposed to also pass to you what that symbol really represents. So I'm supposed to pass you the symbol and the reality behind the symbol, or the reality that the symbol represents. But let's just say I pass the symbol to you and I neglect giving you the reality behind it. Therefore, belief systems are born because you no longer know the reality behind the symbol. All you have is a symbol, and then you have to come up and you can make up stuff out the clear blue sky on what it means to you. And then as time goes on, people add on to it and change things, and it becomes distorted. Okay, so that's why in Africa, initiatory systems or houses are very important. Okay, so want to make that clear. Now, myths. Now, the scientific nature of myths. Now, that may sound a little strange to even have that, to have the word scientific in the same phrase as the word myths, because most people see the word myth as something that is, fairy tale, like totally made up, make believe. But let's discuss the scientific nature of myth. All right. Now, remember the original claim, what the original claim was. Without scrolling back, basically the original claim is saying that the ancient peoples, they didn't go through a process to obtain their myths. All right. So that original claim shows a lack of understanding of what a scientific theory is and its application, as well as what myths are and how they're compiled. The word myth, as it applies to African traditions, are a set of narratives that make use of what we call today figurative speech, as you saw in the last slide. These narratives are indeed explanations of facts or occurrences. Because remember, ancient theories were transmitted through figurative speech. All right. So the scientific method, as practiced in various scientific fields of study, is expressed in the ancient Nile Valley literature. Indeed, indigenous peoples did in fact examine and devote time to cultivate information and gather it into narratives to teach peers and future generations. So they used the information to teach people that were alive at the time, and they packaged it and made sure that it was transmitted to future generations by way of these initiatory environments. All right, whether it was a temple, whether it was out in the bush, whether it was the concrete jungle of the temple, the columns that you see, the papyrus columns and things that you see in Kemet, they're really a mimic of the rainforest. I shouldn't say jungle, the rainforest, the trees and things like that, or literally in the rainforest and the trees. All right. So keep all this in mind. Somebody had something to say?
Oh no, that was also, I was just gonna say that's also was another good slide, because I mean people do get when they hear myth, they throw it out the window. They think that it's they definitely think that it's not true when you talk about myths. But as you begin to study the cultures in Africa, you will see they use a lot of myth stories, but all of it is far as when you talk about some of the cosmologies, what I'm saying? Those cosmologies are myth stories, but they have truth in it. I know they didn't use the word quantum physics or quantum mechanics and, things like that. But, dealing with the myth of Ra, and our tomb, if you look at those and you study and you understand quantum physics and you see the myth of the story, the story, they anthropomorphize different things as far as you're dealing with energy or elemental particles and different things like that. They just told those aspects in the mythos story where, the layman or the common people can be able to understand.
Right. That's absolutely true. And that's the point of tonight's topic, is to really educate people on what the scientific method was and how it applies in ancient times. It just has a different set of clothing on it, and we just have to recognize that. And it's no different than, let's say over here in America, I'm known as Wujao. Let's say over in China, I'm known as Qixin. Now, if somebody from China was to come over here and look for me and they ask around, have you seen Qixin? you have no idea what they're talking about. But the moment they start describing me, and they describe how I look, they describe my character, they describe, all the various different things around me or whatever, or even show you a picture. You're like, oh, you're talking about Wujao. Okay, yeah, he's right over there. He's down the street, blah, blah, blah. So we can label things two different things from two different perspectives, but the nature of it and what it actually is the same. So what I'm showing here, and what we're discussing is, today we call it the scientific method. Like how you said, today we may term things a different way because we're using modern vernacular, we're using modern our languages of English and so on and so forth, but we're describing the same thing. All right. So to continue, now we're dealing specifically with Kemet. All right. So the declaration of the scientific method. Now in Kemet, we have an example, which is one of many, of the scientific method being used and declared. Okay, so what you see on the screen is the Seshew Netcher, or the hieroglyphic phrase that says Tep Hesep Nihat Ket Rek Netet Nebet. So this is how this sentence here in Seshew Netcher is transliterated. All right, this is scientifically transliterated, and by scientifically I mean there's a precise way to transliterate these signs. All right, and maybe in another presentation we will get into the mechanics of transliteration, translation, transcription, and things like that, because there's a lot of confusion about that as well. Matter of fact, that's a real big confusion. It's causing so much confusion that people actually think that it's worth debating and things like that. So we'll probably discuss that another time. Now, so this is how this phrase is, or sentence is scientifically transliterated, but it expresses the meaning in English as the correct method of investigating nature to know all that exists. That's what this means, okay, in English. So now there are several texts where we will see this phrase, Tep Hesep, being used in the context of what we will call today the scientific method. All right. So now in the above sentence, which is the same sentence, the same phrase, and the meaning is up here under it. In the above sentence, the phrase Tep Hesep means correct method or best method, as the above translation shows. The word Tep of itself is used as best or preferred. Okay. The word Hesep is used as an account, a reckoning, or computation. Now, just as a side note here, this word Hesep also has its existence in Semitic languages. For example, the word exists in the Arabic language as hasab or hasub. And it actually is a word that they use today for computer. So if you ever ask a person that speaks Arabic, what's the word for computer in Arabic? They may have a couple of words, but one of the words will be hasub or hasub. And it's because this word means to compute, to calculate, to reckon something, an account of something, to calculate. All right. When used together and in the context, this phrase means correct method, an accurate method, or rules of doing something. So the people of Kemet used a set of methods to arrive at knowledge, which is the word rek. The word rek means knowledge. These methods are expressed in various texts and generally correspond to the methods that are now described as the scientific method. So Tep Hesep is a key factor in research, as it employs a set of rules necessary for understanding things in all its aspects and phenomena. Because look at the phrase again, Tep Hesep Nihat Ket Rek Netet Nebet, which means the correct method of investigating nature to know all that exists. See the word rek right here. And if I point to it up here, you see the word rek right here. Okay, so Tep Hesep Ni Hat Im Chet, which is things, Rec, which is knowledge of, and then we have all things that exist. So we have Nebet, which is all. All right. Now, to break it down a little further, we have the same sentence is repeated so we can keep following along. So the above sentence can be broken down to give a better detail. Okay, so we have the phrase tep hesed, it means correct method. The in here is a genitive, which means of, and then hatem, which is a phrase that means descend into. And used in context, it means to investigate, to dig deep into an issue, to question, to inquire, to study, to comprehend by moving down into something. Now, it's interesting because we use this, we don't say it like this today, but we use this in a form today when we say, you know, dig a little deep into something, or I want to get down to the nitty gritty. We always have this spatial conceptualization of going downward into something, to get underneath the hood. Like, you know, I want to get underneath the hood of this subject. I want to dig down deeper into something. Oh man, yo, did you hear what he said? That was deep. See, so everything seems to be below. You know, when we want to really, really get down to something, really understand something, we always want to dig down, to go down, to descend into. So this concept is here, right in Kemet, hatem, which means to descend into. All right. The word chet, which is here, which means things, and then rek, to know, and then netet nebet, which is all that exists. All right. That's a further breakdown. Now, so what is the procedure? So today, the scientific method, it consists of procedures, you know, a basic knowledge of the scientific method today. You know, you first collect some information, you formulate a research question, then you collect data on that question, you formulate a hypothesis, and then you go through testing the hypothesis. You observe the test. Did the test come out successful? Did it come out the way you expected it to? Whatever. You may have to retest, go back to the drawing board, whatever the case is. But final analysis, you'll come away with an explanation of the actual facts that the outcome produced, and so on and so forth. That's the gist. And I'm giving a very basic paraphrasing of the scientific method. But look it up, and you'll find the formal scientific method as it is explained. But so what is the procedure? How can we compare that to ancient Kemet? All right. Now, the logical flow of the set of rules, tep hesed, generally correspond to the procedural flow in what is called the scientific method today. So they are. So now keep in mind of what I said. I gave you the gist. All right. So now we're going to start the procedure in ancient times. So it starts off with tep, which means beginning. This is the first step in a process called tep, hence beginning. It is at this step that the precise enunciation of the problem to be solved with elucidatory examples are given. Okay, so in other words, this is the part where you formulate your question. Like this is the beginning. This is what starts you. Your curiosity always gets you going, you know. In terms of trying to find out something, you have to be curious about it first. Anything you're not curious of, you're not worried about, you're not searching, you're not going to be looking for it. All right, so this is the beginning of the process. So it's referred to as tep. Next step is called mdw-nTr, which means if one says to you that. Now, this is the stage of definitions where everything is made clear and distinct, and all the relevant terms are explicitly and precisely defined. Now, this is missing in our communities today, where we don't precisely define words as we mean. You know, a lot of people walking around with dictionaries in their own heads that mean different things for different words, and then we have a lack of communication with each other. All right, but in a scientific environment, and in the case of Africa today and in ancient times, in the initiatory environment, words were clearly defined. All right, you knew if somebody said a word, you knew what the word means, regardless of what it means on the street. All right. So the expression mijed means according to that which is said. That is, the process of reasoning is to be addressed to a precisely formulated problem. Next step is called peter. And the word peter is a question, it means what. So if I say peterinek, it means what is your name? So the word peter is a interrogative word. All right. So in Rani Kemet, and the phrase Rani Kemet is the indigenous word or phrase of the name of the language of ancient Kemet. All right. So people will say ancient Egyptian, but it's more properly or indigenously referred to as Rani Kemet, which means the speech of Kemet. So in Rani Kemet grammar, peter stands at the beginning of questions with the functions of eliciting a logical predicate. A question is an expression of inquiry that invites a reply or solution. At this stage, then the student is directly required to ponder and analyze, peter, the problem under examination. So this is the part where you're like, what? You're asking the question, what? You know, who, what, where, when, why? Next step, iret mi keper, which means correct procedure as a phrase. This is the stage of demonstration. That is the mental process of showing something to be true by reasoning and computation from initial data. So everything that you're collected before, you have to demonstrate it through reasoning and computation from that initial data. The process of calculating is based on a careful set of mathematical formulas. All right, keep that in mind. Next. Now we have Raket F Pu, which means solution, or literally saying it is known. All right. This is knowledge, which is Raket, found, and grasped in the mind with clarity and certainty. The solution is regarded as true beyond doubt. The student has shown the requisite know-how, that is, the knowledge and skill required to do something correctly. The solution is evident thanks to the demonstration by a dependable logical procedure. So remember, all of these different steps roll right into one another. Okay. Next, we have Seshmet, which means examination of the proof. This is the review of the whole body of evidence or premises and rules that determine the validity of a solution. Such an examination of a logical proof always leads to a further conceptual generalization. Thus, the ancient people of Kemet had the technique of forming concepts inductively. All right, so this is the examination. So this is the part where you examine your information, and this is the start of the part of what we will call today theorizing. Now you're getting into the explanation point part of it. Now, last step is called Gemek-Nefer or Gemek-Nefir. It means you have found good. The word gem is found, you, found, and then good. This is the concluding stage. So now that you've done everything else, now you found everything to be good or perfect. The word nefer also means perfect. Okay. To be able to do something and find it correctly done means that it was done as it should be done. Gimme, which means to find, is to obtain by intellectual effort and bring oneself to a mental awareness of what is correct, precise, and perfect, which is the word nefer. To arrive at a logical conclusion and find that the conclusion withstands critical scrutiny is an achievement in the art of deduction. The adverb nefer, which means well, implies that the solution is convincing, so that a contradiction is impossible. The concluding observations are mainly confirmatory. Nevertheless, the rigor of the entire process is evident in the method, and the results is objectively known in all truth. Okay, so that is the various different steps that people in ancient Kemet performed. Okay, so this is evident. Now, as I went through these steps and these process, anybody who's watching this presentation live or in the archives, if you're remotely familiar with the scientific method used today, the things that I just described will sound very familiar to you. All right. So this is showing you that the scientific method existed in ancient Kemet par excellence. All right. Or they say in French way, par excellence. Now, everything that I just went over can be found in, as far as the terminologies, can be found in what's called the Rhine's mathematical papyrus. All right. It's given the date approximately of 1650 BC, the one that you see on the screen here. Okay. So this is an actual picture, facsimile of it. Now, in the papyrus itself, the opening phrase here in red. Now, mind you, this is not carved in stone, so it's not the very detailed formal Seshew mdw-nTr. This is a more simplified version of Seshew mdw-nTr that most people will refer to as hieratic. All right. Inside this papyrus here, in the opening phrase, it tells you that it's copied, who it's copied by, which is Ahmes, and it tells you that it's copied from an older version that was that existed during a previous king, and the previous king's name is known. It's Nima-at-Ra, and we have a date for it. So it's copied by Ahmes from an older version dated to approximately 1850 BC. So it's basically a 200-year difference between this one that we're looking at and the one that is copied from. All right. So keep that in mind. Now, so this is what the opening phrase says. So this is to give us some context to what I just said. Is everyone still with me? Because like I said, I can't see anything. Okay. All right. I heard a notification sound to make sure I'm not talking to myself. Okay. So this is the opening of the Rhine's mathematical papyrus. Now, people may wonder, we're talking about science, we're talking about scientific method, but yet I am dealing with a mathematical, what's being called a mathematical papyrus. Now, the papyrus itself wasn't called mathematical papyrus. Okay, so we need to be clear on that. It wasn't called Rhine. Rhine is the actual person who either discovered it or took possession of it by purchasing it or whatever. He came in possession of it, so it was named after the person. And a lot of papyri are done that way. Sometimes it's named after the person, sometimes it's named after the location where it's stored. You have a mathematical papyri called the Moscow papyri, and so on and so forth. But anyway, the question could be asked, why, when we're discussing science and the scientific method, did we kind of tend to jump over to a mathematical papyrus? So remember, the papyrus itself wasn't called a mathematical papyrus. It's an actual papyrus on how to solve problems. And that is what the scientific method is mainly about. You formulate a curiosity, you have a curiosity, you formulate a research question, you want to find out something. So when you find out something, a question is a prerequisite to finding a solution. A solution is a solving a problem. A question is a problem. And then a solution or an answer to that question is the solution of that particular problem. So remember that, because math and science are married at the hip. This is why math and science are used, they go together, even when we talk about it today. Math and science. Matter of fact, a lot of sciences use math heavily. Like, for example, astrophysicists. Matter of fact, I mentioned earlier, Albert Einstein, in order to prove his hypothesis, or in order to confirm and reconfirm his explanations that become theories, he had to make use of a lot of math. Matter of fact, some of the astrophysicists had to invent a form of math, like calculus, had to be invented to further the idea of a certain sciences. I believe it's dealing with gravity. I believe calculus and name comes to my head is Sir Isaac Newton. You know, in terms of what what is attributed to him. But anyway, my point is that science and math are siblings. They work hand in hand, and it's about problem solving. So this is the answer to why there's seeming to be a focus on this mathematical papyrus, but yet we're talking about science and scientific methods. All right, because the logical flow is the exact same, and this is where we find it. Yes.
Yes, and I just wanted to add, obviously you've gone through it, but it says that this is the correct method of investigating nature to know all that exists. So yeah, it didn't say about calculating, but about knowing, about knowledge and all the mysteries and all that.
Exactly. Yes. So this is the opening phrase to that mathematical papyrus. All right. So we'll just read it, and I'll just read it, the English. But you see the Seshew Netcher here, the transliteration here, and then we have the translation. So what this is saying is that the correct method of investigating nature to know all that exists, all mysteries and all things secret. For that purpose, this papyrus roll was copied in the year 33, the fourth month of Akhet, under the majesty of the king of Upper and Lower Kemet, Wasir Ra. May he be given life. And this was accurately copied from an ancient text produced in the time of the king of Upper and Lower Kemet, Nima'at Ra, by the scribe Ahmes, who inscribed this copy. Now, just to kind of highlight some of the words that I read in English here. So we see, again, we have Tep Hesep, Nihat Imket, Rek Netet Nebet. This is the phrase that we were looking at on the other slides. But we have Zinket Nebet, Shatat, which is secrets, Nebet, all secrets. You is set Geret, Sapeker, into Shefedu, which is papyrus roll, this papyrus roll, Shefedu pen, and then M in the year. So we have Hatsep, which is regnal year, 33, Abed is month, fourth month of Akhet, the season of Akhet, which is the season of inundation, to let you know. Then we have Khur, which is under, Hem, which is the majesty of, News of, Nisud Biti, which is the king of Upper and Lower Kemet, Wesera, Diunk, may he be given life. And then we have the Seshew. Now Seshew here is the copy of, and it was done. We have Iri, Imhau Nisud Biti. So this is during the time of the Nisud Biti Nima'at Ra. So we have another king here, and we see it up here. If I show you here, we have Nisud Biti Nima'at Ra. We have Nisud Biti Weser Ra. And then we have, so we have the two kings, and then we have the name of the scribe that's actually doing the copying here, which we see here, Sesh, the scribe. Then we have Mesu. So we have or Ya, as some people will say, Ya for the word for month or moon. And then Mesu, Mesu, but most people pronounce this as Ahmes. And then we have, again, copy. And then we have the scroll here, and then this scroll was copied by who? The Sesh Ahmes or Ahmesu. So this is the opening phrase inside that mathematical, what they're calling a mathematical papyri today, or papyrus today, but it's actually just showing a formula and procedure and method that we use to solve problems. Okay, because then further on in the papyrus, all you're going to see are different problems that are solved, and they go through this procedure. They go through the procedure that I just described. All right. So, with that being said, let it be known that the scientific method that we know today was well known, well established, and practiced in ancient Kemet. Okay, so this speaks to the common, the ignorance of today, where people will say that the scientific method is white man science or European science. And then when people say that, then they'll shy away from the proper procedure, this whole method that I just described, because they're using the excuse of that it's the European science or it's the quote unquote white man science. All right. So this is a way to justify not embracing the scientific method that was utilized in Kemet, in the Nile Valley. Somebody has something to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, those that make this statement, and it's kind of saddens me a little bit for some of those that make the statement that say they've been following the culture, 20, 30 years, or, I definitely longer than me. I mean, they don't understand the culture, because if they understood the culture, they would make those types of statement. If they understood the cosmology stories, they would, they definitely would make those accusations that there's a white man science. I mean, Kemet has so many different cosmology stories that you can study. That they took the stories and put them, like we said, put them in myths. So if they if they really understood the culture, like they say they understand the culture, they teaching the culture, but they not really understanding culture. So if they did understand it, they would make the statement that they are the white man science, or even, not even just studying cosmology, just understanding history. You know what I'm saying? Certain events that played out where certain individuals came in, and we taught those individuals, and they went back and spreaded the information, you know what I'm saying, in their own cultures, in their own civilizations. I mean, so it's just crazy to me when I hear these people make the statement that this is the white man science and in this so-called conscious community.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the reasons why, we're actually going over this, because, we hope to seed the community with the correct information so that we can stop with that nonsense. Because really what it boils down to is an appeal to laziness, because you have to think about it. It's easier to just blanketly sweep and say, well, hey, that's just the Europeans' way, or that's European science. It's easy to do that, because what it does, it justifies in your mind, because the whole thing that, okay, we don't want to deal with anything European or anything white when it comes to African phenomena. With that, on that premise, then it's like anything that comes up that will hint to a European origin or use, then it's like, oh, nope, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to do it. But that's an appeal to laziness, not understanding that the scientific method is exists in the Nile Valley way before science was formulated and cultivated in Greece and Rome. Okay, and you have the birth of philosophy through all of the philosophical so-called teachers of Greece. So this is way before that these things occurred. All right, just this text alone, going back to it, this text alone is copied from a text from 1850 BC. All right, so that's almost 4,000 years ago. Today, that's almost 4,000 years ago. Okay, so we're not talking about something that is originated in Greece or in Europe whatsoever. But as you can clearly see, as I went through the different steps of the procedure, you can clearly see that this mirrors the scientific method that's used today, hands down. All right. So
it's fine.
Yeah, I was going. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry about that. This is Brother Antoine Germain.
Hold
It's
on
kind of
1 second. Your audio is pretty bad, broken up. I don't know if you have to leave and come right back. But we'll wait if you could do that real quick.
Okay. So you can't hear me?
No, it's broken up. It sounds really really bad.
All right.
It's like you have to come in, leave, and come back.
Okay. While he leaves and comes back, I was just gonna say that I definitely agree with the fact that it just boils down to laziness, because as we have seen, I mean, looking at the procedure, I mean, when something requires a lot of work and pondering and research, it's quickly labeled the white man science. But you see a lot of the what we call pseudo stuff, that is like microwave stuff, quick stuff, something that doesn't need any kind of method or methodology, you know, that is embraced without anybody actually questioning whether it's a white man science or not, you know, which most of the time is the pseudo stuff can get, you know, some yeah, we're not going to get into that, but what I would like to say is definitely laziness, because you know, when it requires a lot of work, it's not questioned. And as we've seen here, even though it does, there is a procedure and it is a lot of work, and it's definitely not white man science. But we tend to be kind of lazy when with this kind of stuff, and then make an excuse of it being a white man science. And at the end of the day, that should not even matter if the methods are correct, and you know, that should not even be brought into an equation, I think.
Right. And
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
oh yeah, there you go. Yep. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely not. You know, I want to definitely I agree with Kofi and Sinet. Basically, what I feel it's a cop out, because we see it being tossed around. We'll see it. We'll talk about masonry or Masonic, and they'll say, "Oh, it's white man science," but then we go back and we trace the origins. And so every time we go back and trace these origins and realize it has an African beginning or a Kemetic beginning, then when other people present it to us, even though it's our stuff, you can't use that argument it's the white man science when you have a foundation of understanding that we're the origins and we created this. So it's kind of contradictory or almost hypocritical for people to use that argument if they're actually out there studying.
Exactly. And see, I call it throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You know, so that's what happens. It's like, see, Kemet, and I say this all the time. Kemet was a point of interest, a very high point of interest for Europeans for quite some time. So much so that they formed a scientific discipline around it called Egyptology. Egyptology means the study of Egypt, you know, ology and then Egypt. So they formulated an entire scientific discipline, genre, and everything. It first started off as simply, you know, trying to discover and bring back spoils, you know, the riches and things like that. So this is why a lot of people were this is why a lot of the local people living in Egypt at the time of, you know, these different military exercises of Napoleon and everybody else, even the local people realized that a lot of the valuables that was buried in the different tombs and things like that, that a lot of money would be paid for those things. So you had a lot of local people that was involved in breaking into the tombs, finding this and finding that, basically a scavenger hunt. So start off that way, and then slowly the more intellectuals got involved and they wanted to study the things. So then you have the first wave of archaeologists that come in, and they were very destructive. Archaeology in and of itself is a destructive science by the nature of it, because you have to disturb what's there in order to examine it. So by nature, archaeology is known as a destructive science, but archaeologists have done their best to come up with methods to preserve. So now archaeology spends a lot of time on preservation and non-destructive means of examining different things. But it wasn't like that at first. So they would come in and just tear up the place, you know, even on the archaeological find. So it wasn't until basically until Petrie, Flinders Petrie became involved and kind of set up a more stable way of doing these excavations, things like that. But without being long-winded into that history, that's where you have these grave robberies and things of done. But so the study of Egyptology developed out of the curiosity and the focus on Europeans trying to figure out how did the ancient Egyptians do what they did. You know, because the artifacts and everything is plain to see. It's plain as day. You know, you go. Matter of fact, the picture I have on the screen on the front cover of Dr. Theophilo Obenga's book um, is just phenomenal by itself. So imagine just going there and seeing that. The first thing you want to know is like, who did this? How did they do it? You know, and then you want to get into the mind of the people that figured out how to do it. And what did they use? What were the tools? How long did it take? You know, what was the materials? How many people it took? How long did it take? You know, all those questions come to mind. And so they studied that kind of stuff. And then they studied it. And as they studied, they utilized the information for themselves. So European civilization, Greece and Rome, and thereafter utilized the different things that was being studied. And much later, you know, during the era time I'm talking about in the 1800s, 1700s, and things like that, that all this information is being used. All this information being used. That's how come I say I say it all the time. You know, we want to tap into the minds of those genius people who's contributed so much to the world, whether realized or not, because we don't realize how much has been contributed to the world and used because they're not given credit. And for a long time, matter of fact, this goes right into why I have Dr. Theophilo Obenga on the screen. On the left-hand side, this is Dr. Theophilo Obenga, and this is his book, African Philosophy, that I recommend everyone to get. This is a must-have book. It's over 600 and some odd pages, but he does an excellent job of explaining African philosophy as it relates to the Pharaonic period and between those dates. So it's basically dealing with the Nile Valley, Kemet specifically, and he's going over different primary texts. So he shows the Seshew Netcher excerpts, he shows the transliteration, and then he gives his commentary about the text and explains it. And he does an excellent job of combing through the various different texts to show how philosophy had its genesis, or one of its genesis, right there in the Nile Valley, not in Greece, not in Rome, not in Persia somewhere, not in the Middle East somewhere, you know, that's being utilized today. Okay, so this is an excellent book, and I would recommend getting it. But because he's on the screen, Dr. Theophilo Obenga and Sheikh Anta Diop in the 1970s, they were faced with combating the attitude and the mentality of the European academia that Egypt was formed and created, or whatever, or the civilization grew out of a people that were non-Africans, that were not Africans. Either they were West Asians or they were European. So just as, you know, up until the 1970s, this was the kind of mentality. Now, obviously, you had some people who thought otherwise, but the main, you know, think tank of European academia was that, you know, was not to give credit to Africans for this marvelous civilization, you know. And if you go back to the slave Holocaust, you have to remember, look at the strategy. Here you have Europeans, various different Europeans from different European countries involved with the slave Holocaust. While the slave Holocaust is going on, Europeans are trying to study African civilizations. Now, it would be kind of counterproductive to them if they allowed the so-called slaves to know that they were so intrigued and so blown away by another African civilization. So what they have to do, they have to separate Africa from Egypt. And this is why Egypt, in a lot of people's mind, is not even in Africa, even though you can pull out a map and see Egypt right there in Africa, on the continent of Africa. A lot of people will think of Egypt in the Middle East. And then the Middle East is this imaginary region. You know, it's a region. But you say Middle East, you don't think Africa. You think, you know, out of Africa. So they put Egypt in the mental construct out of Africa. So you have all these different things to not give credit to Africans. And this is a spillover from the slave Holocaust and their strategy. You know, they can't, there's no way they could let Africans know. First of all, they had to justify slavery. So they had to call Africans animals, Africans primitive, Africans backwards. They don't have nothing. They don't even have language. They don't even have a writing script, and so on and so forth. So they could not connect Africans with this beautiful writing script. Therefore, and this goes into something that's being said today, that the early Europeans, even far back as the Greeks, when they saw this beautiful writing system, they didn't think it was a writing system at all. They didn't think that the beautiful glyphs that they saw on the walls and things like that, they didn't think it was representative of speech. They thought it was all symbolic. And you'll find that. And today we have modern day African Americans in the diaspora or people of African descent that will agree with those Greeks and say things like the beautiful pictorial glyphs are not a language, therefore they can't be deciphered, therefore it was never deciphered. You see what I'm saying? So they're following, unbeknown to them, they're following the same logic of these early Europeans from the Greek times all the way to the slave Holocaust. They could not identify Africans with this beautiful civilization, and it's spilling over to today. So one of our warrior champions, our warrior scholars and champions for this cause is right here on the screen, Dr. Theophile Obenga, who, along with Shekinah Diop, gave a devastating blow to that mentality in the 1970s at the UNESCO conference, matter of fact, in 1974. All right. So from that point on, actually it was before that, but the 1974, is the actual event. One of the big highlights in those times. From that point forward, we've had several scholars that will follow suit and challenge the European idea and viewpoints and worldview of African phenomenon across the continent, but especially in Kemet. All right, so we can't forget that. All right, I can't express that enough, because the reason why I say it so much is because we have people today that will neglect and even set aside these African scholars that are setting the record straight, only to agree with the mental construct that was created a long time ago to hide the fact that Africans were responsible for this marvelous civilization. For anybody to say that the Seshew Medew-nTr, what they call hieroglyphs, has not been deciphered today, that is to be an agent of this European construct, period. Because what they're saying is that these glyphs don't represent a language. Therefore, it cannot be deciphered. And we're going to get into that later in the upcoming months. It's supposed to be an event where we'll be able to discuss that and teach that. All right. But so I just wanted to kind of conclude with this presentation on science, the scientific method existing in Kemet. So anybody watching this now or in the archives, just know that the scientific method that we know today has its place and one of its genesis in the Nile Valley, in Kemet. So no, it is not a European science or method. No, it is not a white man's science or method. It is very African. In fact, the very word science can be traced back. Although I showed the etymology in the Edom Online Dictionary, a lot of Proto-Indo-European words can be traced back to their African roots. That same word, siere, which means to cut and divide, it ties into African words that mean the exact same thing, to cut and divide. Because when you split something open, you're examining it. And when you differentiate something from something else, that is an act of discernment. So the same word for knife, the same word to cut, to split, are the same words ultimately that becomes the words for science. Okay, so always remember that. All right. And so what do I have next?
Oh, can I ask something real quick?
Yeah, go.
Before you change slots? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you was kind of talking about you studied Egyptology, and we know as early as like the early '80s, Dr. Ben even started calling it Kemetology. And I'm just saying that because I know some people say, well, y'all study Egyptology, that's the white man's science. Well, at some point, we had to realize, all right, there are some things in this science that are corrupted that we need to go back and look at ourselves and examine ourselves. And that's when, Dr. Ben started what is known as Kemetology, as far as, actually going back. And as far as with the picture on the screen, you're kind of talking about going to different levels. At one level, like you said, you would wonder who built this and things of that nature. But when you start taking it to a deeper level, you want to know, okay, we know who built this and those things, but what's on the walls in there? And then what do the walls say? And how does that impact my life? And also, you might want to start thinking questions like, why was it built in this mountain? Why is it built in this area? Things of that nature is when you start trying to understand the mind of the people and the culture. And another reason why we study the glyphs.
Yes, that's an excellent point. Excellent point. And before I move away from this slide, I want to reiterate that everything that I did discuss in the previous slides is found within this book. That's one of the main reasons why I have this book showing, and to recommend everyone to get it. All right, it's on Amazon, or you go to a really good bookstore that has African scholars' works in it. If you see it, pick it up. It's worth it. Matter of fact, my copy only costs $32. Now on Amazon it's a little more expensive, but it's worth it. Get it. If you see it, get it. All right. You got to have some stamina to read it because it's over 600 and some odd pages, but it's a pretty easy read. It's not it's not highly technical. It's a good mixture of technical things and easy flowing, easy to follow information. All right, in the commentaries. So get it, and it's in English because a lot of his work is in French, but this particular one is in English. All right, so I definitely recommend that. All right, so pick that up. As a matter of fact, what I discussed, for those who have it already, it's found on page 421 in the book where he discussed mathematics and science. All right. So it starts on page 421, but it's a lot of things before that and after that as well. All right. So don't want to drag this out too long. So I also want to discuss or introduce a new series by the Seshew. I'm sorry, I'm about to say the word for hieroglyphs. Seshew mdw-nTr group, us. A series that we will be doing in the future, near future, called Welcome to the Sabite Dome. And it's basically kind of a spinoff of Welcome to the Terror Dome. If anybody's familiar with Public Enemy and their song Welcome to the Terror Dome, and the concept of coming to a place where you get busy, basically, and that's ultimately a spinoff of that movie, Mad Max and the Thunderdome, with Tina Turner and Mel Gibson. I'm probably telling my age again. But anyway, welcome to the Sabite Dome. Now, the word Sabite or Siba, the word Siba means to teach. It can mean teacher, and it can also mean a student or pupil. Okay, Sabite is the word for instructions or teachings. And so they're all basically the same word in different forms. So Sabite Dome is a place of instruction. But we're using it, like I said, in a more creative way. So welcome to the Sabite Dome, where rap battle, combat, ego-driven, unconscious community circus debates are converted into teaching tools for the edification and benefit of our people, for application, progress, and liberation towards reaching our divinity. So in other words, we're going to take all the silly foolishness that we see in social media with I refer to it as circus debates, the back and forth things that people do with the microwave scholarship and things like that. So these particular topics, what we do is convert them, or topics that's worthwhile, convert them to teaching opportunities. So they become teaching opportunities so that we can start explaining things in a much better way, giving accurate information. All right. So basically, that's what this series is going to be, where we're going to address, you know, the things that are floating around in social community that are basically misinformation, whether it's intentional or not, or just straight foolishness. You know, if it's worthwhile, if it's a subject that's worthwhile for our edification, you know, and the edification of other people. Okay, so we're not going to chase everything down. We're not going to address everything, but there are some things that that may pop up that are important to be explained properly or to be properly informed about. All right. So anyway, so look out for that. It's welcome to the Sabite Dome. All right, the place of instruction. All right, remember that. Matter of fact, I wish I had the Public Enemy music to play right now, but yeah. So look out for that in the future. And lastly, don't forget that if you're interested in learning the Seshew Netcher, how to read it, how to understand it, the process that we go through that we show on nights like tonight or Friday, Freestyle Fridays. There's a class offered. It's a 12-week class, meeting once a week for 12 weeks, 2 hours a week. Okay, so 2-hour sessions for 12 weeks, and you will learn the entire methods on how to transliterate and translate Seshew Netcher, aka the hieroglyphic writing system. All right, and during that exercise or during that study course, you will know unequivocally that the Seshew Netcher or hieroglyphs has been deciphered, why it's been deciphered, how do we know it's been deciphered, how we can prove different things, how we can verify and confirm, or verify and confirm meanings that are already given, or disprove meanings and correct those meanings that are given. All right. So I want to make it clear, we don't rely on the dictionary definitions that exist today. We have the tools necessary to verify and confirm those meanings. So for example, the word kim, you look up in the Egyptian dictionary, it will say it means black. But how can we confirm that? What we can do, we can utilize the tools of comparative linguistic, the historical comparative method, and we can check that word against the related words in living African languages to this very day. And we look for the form and meaning, the matches in form and meaning. Okay, so that's a very detailed and scientific process that is utilized to make those determinations. So we could find the word Kim, and we could find it in living African languages. So, for example, Kim in Seshew Netcher may be Kuma in a related African language, but it means black. And then we can go down a whole list of these different African languages and confirm that. All right, so that's just a quick gist of that process, you know, without getting into any details whatsoever, because that is a very lengthy, meticulous, and tedious process to do. But we do that. All right, and there's African scholars that do that all day, every day. So no, we don't rely on these dictionaries, and we don't rely on or anyone telling us that the language has been deciphered or hasn't been deciphered. We can actually see and confirm or refute. We have the skills, the knowledge, and the tools to do so. All right. But anyway, so another thing, the flashcards, what you see is Seshew Netcher alphabetic flashcards. These are signs that represent the phonology of the language, which means all the different individual sounds within the language are contained within 25 glyphs. All right. And just like English has 26 letters that represent the phonology of the English language that we speak. In Rodney Kemet, there are approximately 25 different sounds that make up the phonology of the language, and probably a combination of others, but they're represented by 25 glyphs. And these cards give you the glyph, it gives you what it represents, what it's transliterated as, in 2 different transliteration systems, manual decodage and the diacritic system. All right. And now, mind you, this book is a complementary textbook to the study course that I just mentioned. You can get the book on its own and learn and study on your own. but it's preferably recommended that you take the study course as well, because they go hand in hand. All right, that's the way it was written. I wrote it for that purpose, and that was the circumstances on why it was written, to complement the study course. All right, so that's all I have for tonight, you know, and I'll, you know, stop sharing the slides and we can kind of discuss if anybody has anything to bring up to say, talk about. Anybody in the chat. I can't see it, but I'll see it in a second.
This is a journey.
He's playing it. That's nice. Yeah, welcome to the Terror Dome. Public Enemy. Public Enemies before their time. So yeah, so okay, well, you know, this is my first time peeping at the YouTube chat. You know, so hopefully that wasn't too long-winded or quote unquote boring. Now, this is another thing. You know, I hear a lot of people, well, not a lot. Let me not exaggerate, because I don't want to give it too much credit at all. But there are some people that will and this is in the social community that we all acquainted with on Facebook and stuff. You know, whenever we talk about stuff like this, you know, I see some comments where people say it's boring, and whatnot. You know, people. So what that does, it tells me that people are really looking just to be entertained, and that is the opposite direction that we need to go in. We need to become more scientifically literate. We need to become more educated. And even when I say that, some people in their mind may say, well, he's talking about white man education. You know, education, the word education means, it comes from the word educare, which means to draw out of somebody those inner qualities, that inner genius in somebody. This is a very African concept, a very African thing to do. You know, so don't be afraid of education. It's like we want to call out Black Power, all this and all that, but yet we run from these things just because people may think it's from the white man or think it's Eurocentric and whatnot. We have to stop that. We have to get away from that. So, you know, we put on these series of, you know, these instructional kind of series on Wednesdays to educate and edify everyone, you know, and we learn also. Because as I go over it, you know, I kind of remind myself, and then when we prepare to kind of present something, you know, we have to study and check the information, you know, and so on and so forth. So it's all a learning process for all of us. All right. And we slow things down and we walk through it. This is the kind of information that we need. Now, the entertainment is good. Now, we could do that because we can walk and chew gum at the same time. But when I see people kind of raise eyebrows or you know, suck their teeth at you know, more of a you know, this kind of environment where we're actually talking about something, explaining something, not the back and forth hoopla, the hollership and the pseudo-ship and things like that, you know, that kind of worries me, because it lets me know that, you know, some people are going in the wrong direction, you know. So we have to cut that out. We have to understand that education, it's a process to this. You can't microwave this. All right. And let it be known, the Egyptian language, or Rani Kemet, and all of its writing systems and so on and so forth, it cannot be microwaved. Don't do it. Don't try it. All right. Just like you can't microwave astrophysics. You can't microwave biogenetics. You can't microwave chemistry. So don't expect to microwave linguistics, or specifically learning the ins and outs about any particular language. Now, we tend to take it for granted because language in and of itself is pretty much incorporated in our lives at a very young age. You know, so we see language as a part of us as opposed to chemistry, because in our minds, chemistry is over there, and I have to be curious enough to go take a course in chemistry. Chemistry is not something that we utilize all day, every day, or astrophysics or biogenetics. It's not something that you utilize every day, all day, like communication, languages. So we tend to take things we use all the time for granted. And people think it's easy, it's simple, it can be microwave, and that's just far from the truth. So we need to stop doing that and stop tolerating people who do that, because people are getting in the way of those who are putting this work in, putting the time and effort in to educate our people and to be educated ourselves. All right. So hopefully in 2017 we go into this new year, not tolerating that. Hopefully we can eliminate it or bring it down, and move forward in a very progressive way where we have more scientific literacy, where people understand the scientific method. People are willing to be disciplined and have the stamina to sit through an hour class or a 2-hour class. You go to college. I remember being in college, you would sit in a class and have no opportunity to ask any questions because you're sitting in a room that's the size of a movie theater. The seats are just like a movie theater. It's like a big auditorium where the seats are stacked, stagnated, going up, in different levels. And the professor is at the bottom in front of a big board with a microphone, lapel microphone, talking for an entire hour straight or 2 hours straight, no questions, straight. And then you get up and you leave. You never ask a question. You can ask to see him after class, or you got to go to your study session, which is a smaller group. So we have the lecture hall, and then we have our little smaller study groups, for those who went to college and gone through that. So you had to sit through that. That's how you become educated. Even in the initiatory systems in Africa, you sit and you listen, you learn, you be quiet. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to keep all that stuff in mind. So anyway, I know I'm going off on a rant a little bit. I kind of tend to do that a little bit, not a little bit, but a lot. So, but anyway, I'll mute my mic and open it up. I'm trying to catch up on any of the comments. I see quite a few comments made. So, if anything caught you all's eyes, kind of bring it up. One thing, I see a lot of comments.
Well, when you introduced the new series, people were wondering when it was going to be.
Oh, well, we haven't put a date to it yet, but it's going to be in the near future. Basically, like I said, we just want to convert things into a teaching tool. Convert the negative or convert the silliness into something that's progressive, something positive, something that's applicable, something that we can use to broaden our body of knowledge. Because remember, we discussed science. What is science? Science is both a method of tools to know when we know something, and it's also the accumulative body of knowledge. So we want to add to that. That's what research is about. Research is about adding to the body of knowledge. So we want to convert these things over into a progressive way of adding to that body of knowledge. So like tonight, this topic is one of those topics that come up. Science is a white man's endeavor. Science and its methods is European endeavor. So basically, this is converted into a teaching moment, teaching method, teaching tool to say no, that's incorrect. Straight up and down, it's incorrect. Science, as it's known today, has one of its genesis in the Nile Valley. Period. People can't get around that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Scribe wants to know: are you doing a debate? Are you going to be on a panel? And to add to that, are you going to have your fingerprints on it, or what's your stance? What's your side? What's your thing on the debate that they have coming up, since it's dealing with the language and that's what we do?
Yeah. Well, number one, I want to make this really clear. It is not a debate. It is an event that's supposed to take place in December 18th, but it is not a debate. You will not hear me acknowledge it as a debate because, like I said, I posted this on Facebook that, I share in the sentiments of Dr. Clark, John Henry Clark, in his famous statement where he says that I only debate my equals, all others I teach. Sarah Seti and Young Pharaoh, who are participants in this event, they are not qualified to debate about the languages of ancient Egypt or its writing systems, period. So I want to make that real clear. I do not acknowledge those brothers as being even qualified to debate about it. They haven't studied the language whatsoever. One of them has been studying for 30 years, teaching for 15, and still can't read anything on the walls of Kemet. The other brother, young Pharaoh, has a lot of info. He's just grossly misinformed, or has a lack of information, to where he's coming up with his ideas and his beliefs about the language. They're just coming from a place of ignorance. So it's not a debate. But now, with that aside, am I going to be there? This is something that we do. So it happens to be a topic that we deal with and everything. So we're going to use it as a teaching moment. So anybody that comes to that event, if they're coming to listen to Hollership or to get entertained and stuff like that, stay home. This is what I'm saying. People like that might as well stay home, because in this kind of thing, you have to come with pad and pencil, pen and pad in hand, and be prepared to sit and learn. That's it. It's just that simple. If people are not willing to do that, then no, I'm not dealing with anything less than that. So this is an opportunity for people to learn, opportunity for people to get some information straighten out the ignorance, to eliminate the ignorance, and go into 2017 knowing a little bit more than what you knew before. All right. So, I'm not participating in any debate, but I will participate in the teaching moments. So let me put it that way. And I'm not trying to buck dance around the answer either, but I have to say it that way because I refuse to acknowledge this kind of thing as a debate. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm very consistent with that. All right. So, think about it. It's no debate. It's no debating. Think about it. If the claim is being made that the Seshew Netcher, aka hieroglyphs, have not been deciphered, now one of the people, or both, who's making a claim, who's participating in the debate, he goes by the moniker or the name Sarah Sutin Seti. All those words are ancient Egyptian words. If the language was not deciphered, please tell me, how is it possible for you to name yourself Sarah Sutin Seti? That is a walking contradiction. We're looking at an oxymoron right there. There is no debate. So don't get it twisted. It's not a debate at all. This is an opportunity to educate the people. And then those brothers, it's an opportunity for them to just do whatever they do. Period. And we all know that the debates is an opportunity for people to gather, people to network, people to make money, and so on and so forth. So, don't have to sugarcoat what it is. So, people want to be educated, then I'm all for that. I'm all for it. So that's my take on it. Hopefully I answered the question and then some.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to make that clear.
It's true.
We had another question when you were sharing Dr. Obenga's book. Question came up: is there a reason why he used Hatshepsut's temple on the cover? Do you know? And I know Antoine. I think Antoine's been there. So.
Inside, I'm looking in the book now, and I don't remember him explaining why he chose that at all.
I was just looking through it too. First of all, if you don't have a book, I definitely recommend you get the book. And then if you do have the book, he doesn't come out and state specifically why he used that on the front cover. But what I did do was I did turn to the back and look up Seshew in the index, and basically went through all the pages. So I would encourage you to do that to get some more information as to why he may have used that.
Okay. Also, I just want to let people know that this was originally written in French and it had a different cover on it. Okay, so I don't think this was the original cover of the original edition. Okay, so this is an English edition that was produced in 2004, but there's a French edition that was done in 1990. So originally he wrote this in 1990. All right, and it had a different cover on it. So as far as I can tell, there's no explanation of why this picture was chosen for this cover. So yeah, keep all that in mind. But hopefully, as far as the topic for tonight, remember, this was the scientific method in Kemet. Hopefully everybody, now I didn't get a chance to scroll up and see all the comments. So I don't know if anybody has something that they want to re-ask or restate in the comment section in the chat box. By all means, do so. We'll hang out for another 5-10 minutes. But hopefully that was clear. If you have any questions, now, or you think of something later, you may watch the archive again. If you felt that I said something in error, or you have additional research to bring to the table, by all means, remember, join our Facebook group, Seshew mdw-nTr on Facebook. Matter of fact, we need to start putting the links inside the description so people can click on it and get to it easily. But join the Facebook group, and we can continue the conversation there. We have a lot of discussions that take place inside the group as it relates to the culture of Kemet and the languages. All right. So yes, when is the new series going to be? Oh yeah, we don't know just yet. Lisa, we're not sure yet, but we'll let everybody know. Yep, let everybody know. Welcome to the Sabite Dome. Get down. You can get it. Public Enemy. Man, I'm definitely telling my age.
Would you join me, please, and welcome the league?
It is right there. Hey, Damo, it sound like it's how you got one of those 1980 boom boxes too. So we like going way back.
Right. Shout out to Radio Raheem.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Recently transitioned.
Robert.
That's the
Robert name.
What was his name? Actual name?
I believe it's Robert Nam. I don't want to say it incorrectly, but yeah, Robert. I believe first name.
Okay. Yeah. Radio Raheem. Yes, definitely. Jehudi Mahdi asks, what is the oldest attestation of Tep-Hesed? You mean as in the procedure or as in the word? So I need clarification on that, Brother Jehudi.
I think like a question like that, maybe like the what we showed was a later, may have been later. Like how far or how old can we find the word Tep-Hesed in the glyphs?
Oh, that's a good question. We could find that out.
Yeah, it'd be something to look into. I think that's kind of the direction he's going. I'm not sure, but that kind of interests me.
Okay, yeah, we could find that out. Oh, he said the word. Yeah, we could find out the earliest attestation of the word. We can definitely find that out. Now, remember, these are two words, used as a phrase, because the word Tep is very old. I can tell you right now, the word Tep is found in the pyramid text. All right, I already know that. Because Tep is the face and profile. Okay, and the word Tep means the best part of something, or the height of something, the head. Matter of fact, it will remind you, or easy way to remember what it means is the word, just put an I in between T and a P, tip, the tip of something, something that protrudes, something at the top, or the best part of something, the tip, or the first, something that you've come in contact first, like the tip of the iceberg. Like if I say, hey, we've only touched the tip of the iceberg, that means I'm just beginning with you. I'm just starting, this is just the start. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the word Tep means beginning in a procedure. So Tep is the first step. It's the beginning. So we're just touching that. We're just getting across that tip of the iceberg type of thing. All right. So but yeah, we could find out as the phrase, the phrase, because remember, part of now this causes confusion as well, that when people say or they feel that the language, is unknown or something like that, is that people don't understand the different levels of a language. A lot of people ignore figurative language, even though we use it. The same people who will use figurative language in their day-to-day speech, they will ignore it when it becomes a focus of discussion, or focus of analysis. And we do that a lot with different things, but especially with language, figurative language. We have metaphors. Matter of fact, the entire rap game is based on how well a hip hop artist or rapper is able to convey a message in a song using metaphors, using analogies, using allegories and things like that. That's like Redman, for example. Redman is well known for his ability to put together metaphors. I mean, I'm just using him as his he just first come to mind, but there's a whole bunch of good ones who do it very, very good. Some people who don't do it as good, but that is a major point of lyrics in hip hop, figurative speech, figurative expressions. So there is a level of scrutiny or level of analysis that we have to do to get to the realities behind the symbolisms, behind the metaphors, behind the allegories. And like I said earlier, once you lose it, and all you have is the symbol, because remember, you have a symbol, and then you have what it stands for. Now, if all I give you is the symbol, then in your mind, you have to guess, you have to speculate, you have to pull things out the clear blue sky of what you feel is the reality behind the symbol. But in a well-structured culture and community, they have education systems that they call initiatory systems or houses where the symbol is given and then the reality behind the symbol is also known or lived. So for example, there could be a story, a cosmological story about how something comes into being or how order is generated, which is what the word cosmogony or cosmogony means, the generation of order. You can have a whole myth, a whole narrative of anthropomorphizing different natural principles in nature, that different phenomena. You can do all of that inside of a narrative that we call myth, but that will be the figurative expression of it to pass down from generation to generation. But while you're in the initiatory house or in the community itself, you actually live out those principles, live it out. So for example, if there's a story, now I'm just clearly making this up, so don't think that I'm trying to quote an actual text or anything. I'm just going to illustrate, give an example that pops up in my mind. Let's just say that we're just as a community, we are describing in a figurative way. We're describing how the solar system moves. Which direction it moves in, and the fact that it moves in a oval path. The Earth rotates around the sun in a elliptical kind of orbit, and so on and so forth, or whatever the case is. So we write that down, and we collect the data. We observe this, but we record it and pass it generation to generation in a figurative expression. Okay, so but in initiatory setting, we explain the symbol or the figurative way, but we also tell the reality behind it. Not only tell it, but we live it. So we will, as a community, we will design our actual community houses and structures in a pattern that will reflect a spiral that is moving in a counterclockwise direction. So I'm just giving an example. Now, I'm not saying that this is from a real text or anything like that. I'm just giving an example, illustrating this. So we may build our actual community literally in a spiral format, that where the arms out of the spiral is going to curve, just like how the Milky Way spins or how the solar system spins or something like that. So we're actually building and living it, as well as having the explanation and the symbolism and the metaphors and the allegories and the myths around it as well. You see what I'm saying? So I know for in particular, like for example, there are some African communities. I believe one such community is the Dogon community, where I may be wrong about this, but I know it's in particular African communities where when a young man wants to then therefore marry a woman, he has to actually build a house first, and he has to build a house from starting with a stick, and he has to outline the house and build it and put things on it. And the way that the house is built stage by stage is done in such a way that it is actually reenacting or retelling the story of creation. All right, now I forget which community does that, but you know, you could look that up and maybe next time I'll know for sure, but I'm going off the top of my head right now. But that's just another example of what I'm saying, of having the symbolisms, having the myth, but actually living it, you know, or at least knowing the reality behind it. So anyway, we're at the 2-hour mark, and I don't want to be too long. I don't want this video to be too long, you know. So is anything else anybody on the panel want to say? Yeah, brother Lorenzo Heru. And plus, let me give a shout out to everybody that's in the chat. I like to always do a little roll call here. So we have say ETM Hotep to everyone. We got I'm just scrolling up. Black History 365, Strife 777, Tori Jones, Sean, brother Sean, Lisa Hotep. I'm like doing a roll call, like, where y'all from? You know, Kevin Hurd, Christopher Withers, you know, and I like to see, you know, because I want to see if people, because, you know, I look for you inside the Facebook group as well. So I know a lot of people's screen names may be different on Facebook than they are here. So if they are, you know, let it be known so we can know who you are and everything. Brother Mac Tip. I'm trying to see else. Monica, Sister Monica. And who else? I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody else. Brother Jehudi Ma'at. And yeah, so I see Gerald Atkins Jr. All right. So there's probably some more. So I'm trying to just kind of scroll fast. But all right. So anybody else have anything? Yes, no, maybe so. All right. Nope. All right. Well, hey, I hope everybody can walk away from that. You know, listen to the archive again, share the link. You know, I try not to be too long-winded. I know I'm kind of rambling on at the end of this, but hopefully it will spark some more research and people can, you know, come to the table and we can have further discussions about it. But this topic was dealing with the scientific method as it's found in the Nile Valley, specifically in Kemet. All right. So no, science is not a European endeavor. The scientific methods used today is not a European invention. All right. Let's get that clear. Let's definitely clear the air with that. All right. So no more should we tolerate the laziness among us, and I will say us to include myself. No longer should we tolerate the laziness and the justification of that laziness by just saying, oh, that is a European thing, or that is the white man's thing. Throw that in the garbage. All right. We have to get busy. We have to embrace our sciences. Okay. We have to become scientifically literate, period. Hands down. You know, and we can do it. Like, you know, why, you know, we also almost like we're doubting ourselves. You know, we could do this and more. We're all that and a bag of chips. So we need to act like it. We need to demonstrate that. We need to live it. So we need to become more scientifically literate. How do you think that we came came up with all the things that we've done and that we can witness in the various different African cultures across the whole continent, not just in Kemet. We focus on Kemet, but there's other cultures. There's cultures that predate Kemet. So you got a group of people that say, oh, why y'all talking about Kemet? Why don't you talk about things that predate Kemet or the grandmother of Kemet, Kush, Nubia? That's for another topic, but we can discuss why. But we never, we acknowledge and we never claim that Kemet is the first civilization. But you do have people out there who may feel that way, but that's not us. But anyway, so I'll end that. And if nobody else has anything to add, then we can kind of close this out. And hopefully, Sonia Tonica, if you can give us some closing words, we'd be appreciated.
Dua and Dua for the presentation, and hopefully for those watching and those who are going to be watching on the archive, you can get to appreciate that African science. And it's not a European or Wazungu science like we always hear everybody say. So when you get to come face to face with your excellence, hopefully you will not be too scared of it and try to give the credit to somebody else. So yes, we can do that. And no, there's a procedure. You cannot, all that excellence was not built on actually sun gazing or levitating. You will have to go through the, to put in some work to get that excellence. So if that disappoints you, well, that is that. But we have to keep working, and you have to put your good head to use. So yes, it is African science. And that's just what I like to conclude with. And let's embrace that. Let's work. I mean, there are no shortcuts. So yes, with that, I would just like to say that again, if you feel that something wasn't presented correctly, then you can always correct us and join the group page. If you're not a part of the group, do that. And check out the website www.mdw-nTr.com. That's mdw-nTr.com. Get the book if you haven't gotten the book. I know some people are asking some basic questions on the chat about ideographs and whatnot. So definitely get up to par with just the basics, and then you can actually get to enjoy the conversations concerning the language. That is a must. No shortcuts again. So with that, I would like to say thank you for watching Dua, and thank you for the presentation again. So a lot to learn, and we appreciate that. And also, yes, we did actually get to learn about Obenga. So and I know there's others that we haven't mentioned, like Diop and all that. But yeah, we have a lot of work that have been put forth through time, and we're still continuing with that work. So we're not focused on Champollion and all of that. So I guess everybody just need to get up to par with the excellence that is being produced by our African scholars and all that. So thank you again for watching. And I'll say, before I start rambling, like I'll just go ahead and say Dua and Kerenefer, Shem, and and we have somebody watching from London as well. So Bekanefer and Shemamote.